This is a presentation on a proposed approval for corrective measures implementation work plans at Cytec Industries Incorporated by the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, Office of Waste Management and Radiological Protection. Cytec Industries Incorporated has proposed to clean up environmental contamination at its property located at 2715 Miller Road in Kalamazoo, Michigan. The property consists of 2 parcels of land on approximately 144 acres. The operating portion of the plant includes about 30 acres south of Business 94, west of Davis Creek, and east of a railroad right-of-way. The facility formerly stored hazardous waste in 55-gallon containers under an operating license. The container storage area is now closed, and the license has expired. Corrective action must be completed for releases of contaminants to the environment. Units that routinely and systematically manage waste, also known as waste management units, and other areas of concern, provide a starting point for corrective action investigations, which are followed by study and implementation of appropriate corrective measures technologies under Part 111, Hazardous Waste Management, of the Michigan Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act as amended, also known as Part 111. Corrective action investigations have been completed at the facility such that the extent and impact from releases of contaminants at and from the facility is fully delineated. The facility has studied, proposed, and begun implementation of appropriate corrective measures to address the contamination found on-site and off-site in soils and groundwater. This presentation provides further information on the proposed corrective measures implementation. 6 waste management units in areas of concern have been identified as requiring corrective measures implementation at the facility. These 6 areas include areas of liquid releases and solids disposal and are identified on this slide. Corrective measures implementation is specific to the types of contaminants released to soils and groundwater. Based on the nature of contamination, specific corrective measures were selected for each waste management unit and area of concern requiring further actions. To address contaminated soil at the facility is proposing engineering controls to prevent human exposures such as asphalt paving barriers, excavation, safety procedures, and institutional controls such as deed restrictions and plans showing areas of contamination that will remain on-site above risk-based cleanup criteria. To address groundwater contamination, the facility is also proposing specific corrective measures by waste management unit or area of concern, including engineering controls like pumping and treatment systems and monitoring, and institutional controls like a county ordinance and on-site deed restriction on groundwater use. This figure from the CMI work plan shows the locations of the Toluene 1 and 2 areas of concern. This figure provides the locations of the sulfuric acid plant Spill D area, pellet disposal area, and FMW spill area waste management units. This slide shows the areas where additional asphalt paving is proposed and will have to be maintained as an exposure barrier corrective measure. This slide shows the area on-site where groundwater use will be restricted by a deed restriction.
The geology of the site consists of sand, gravel, silt, and clay layers that are unconsolidated. Those deposits are about 160 feet thick at this location, under which is bedrock. The first layer of bedrock is a shale. There are 3 basic geological units of concern, those being the unconsolidated deposits. The first is a shallow groundwater aquifer consisting of sand and gravel. Under that is a middle confining layer of sandy clay. Beneath that is another lower sand and gravel aquifer. Groundwater in this location flows in the sand and gravels to the north. The groundwater at the site is checked with a series of monitoring wells. At the northeast part of the site, this map shows the location of multiple wells that were put in to monitor the FMW spill area and the pellet disposal area. Other wells along the northern part of the site are shown on this map, covering the former sulfuric acid plant, another spill area, and the former alum ponds. Cytec will be required to continue groundwater monitoring in these wells to make sure contaminants are not migrating.
The Corrective Measures Implementation Work Plan also includes language for the restrictive covenants to be executed on the property deed. In part, the restrictive covenants will prohibit the use of groundwater, any removal of asphalt, concrete, or vegetated soil serving as exposure barriers for contaminated soils, any activities that disturb or damage the function of the groundwater monitoring system, any excavation, drilling, subsurface utility work, or movement of soil in those areas protected by the exposure barriers, unless approval is granted by the DEQ. Any disturbed exposure barriers must be reestablished. All uses of the property not compatible with the cleanup category established under Part 201 of Act 451 will also be prohibited. The MDEQ is proposing to modify the Corrective Measures Implementation Work Plans for approval. Since the Kalamazoo County Ordinance restricting off-site groundwater use in the plume of groundwater contamination from the facility is not yet final, Cytec will be required, as part of the CMI work plan, to provide the MDEQ with semi-annual reports on the progress of the local ordinance towards completion as a final ordinance to control groundwater usage. This map shows the approximate location of the proposed groundwater restriction zone being proposed as a local ordinance. The MDEQ has completed its review of the CMI work plans, but is seeking public input. CMI work plans and more information about the facility may be reviewed on the DEQ website. Before issuing a final decision, the DEQ will evaluate all comments received during the public comment period. The final decision will be communicated to all persons on the facility mailing list. The comment period ends January 25, 2013. Written comments, requests to be placed on the facility mailing list, and all other requests for information should be directed to Daniel Daly, Michigan Department of Environmental Quality, Office of Waste Management and Environmental Response, Post Office Box 30241, Lansing, Michigan 48909, or via email at dailyd@michigan.gov. Thank you for visiting the DEQ website and listening to this presentation.